And there's also like, I think it's all sand and rock and things, but implying little trails or little kind of things that help to show that receding in space, the size and the diminishing of size as it recedes, kind of helps with that, with the perspective and like the shore, and so the overlapping like the boats and making the shore kind of zigzag or kind of yeah, helps it kind of to recede back. Um, Still gotta just finalizing the details on the structure. There's like there's like multiple levels and doors and all sorts of things going on. But I think is it a tire that's on the bottom right? It's kind of a fun little detail. So I'm jumping into the darkest darks. Uh, well, not I think I still go darker. This is not black, but I'm jumping in there pretty. Like this is I think it's a 9, and so I'm going pretty dark already, knowing that those are going to be probably the most dark thing in this marker sketch itself. I'll probably come back and bring some black on top, just little accents here and there. But this was now 7, slightly lighter, but all this stuff's still in shadow. But like it was, that's like an hour 5. It was getting maybe a little too dark. Sometimes instead of drawing all of those windows first before I do the markers, because of the marker, I can almost like block those out and get them in more easily with the marker, and then come back on top with the pen like I'm doing now. So it doesn't, like when I'm doing the initial sketch with our kind of thing with the pen, I don't necessarily get all the details. Kind of feel free to go back and forth and as needed. You can also blend, as long as the markers are like the mark that you put down isn't dry. You can blend and start to get some nice gradations with them. In fact, I like to use a lighter marker to blend it, right? So if like what I did in that shadow is I did a lighter, like the initial, I think it was a 5, and then I came back on top with like a darker one and kind of put it one on top, like a 7, and then it starts to kind of get that gradation feel, and because those values will blend together just like that. Put it on the do a lighter value on the awning, and then get a darker value and make some of the shadow. But that way it'll kind of soften up a little bit and blend. So there's the initial idea, like that's the focal point, right? This is the structure. Now we gotta start adding some values to everything else so that it So it helps give context to everything. The sky is going to be the lightest thing in there. So I generally, unless the sky is important and I want to showcase the sky, I'll just leave it white. But the vegetation's darker, so knock the overall value down, and then come back on top of the shadows. I'm kind of using like the brush side in a way that it kind of as I pull it up, it kind of creates like a simple subtle gradation. So it's toward the base, it's darker, and then as I pull up, it kind of softens out. So that helps to kind of make it feel like it's darker down the bottom, creates that contrast down there. I really like the shapes that those boats are making on the shore, but I got to be careful not to put too much emphasis over on those because they can start to draw the eye there and create too much contrast, too much of interest. But I think it kind of helps to balance out the piece where we have the structure right in front of us, and then there's a little, and it's off to the left a little bit, and then the boats to the bottom right. So there's kind of like a little bit of, helps to balance out the composition. Sometimes like I like, depending on what's in the composition of things, it's push the size of trees and some of the vegetation things, like make it a little bit taller or bigger or whatever to kind of help with make it more interesting and feel like that it's can be more balanced and just kind of add an added interest to the composition overall. So feel like feel free to really design and enhance whatever it is you're looking at from your reference. Keep in mind that we are not copycats, right? We are designers and artists, and we're really want to design what we're making to make it look awesome. So that means most of the time it means modifying something in one way or another, the composition from what's there to make it better. Hopefully better. Anyway, that's the idea. And sometimes we can resolve a lot of those details at this level, right? We can be playing with, making those extreme modifications or those differences in what's happening there, and see if that's like a really good solution or not. But it's easier to resolve and figure that stuff out at this level versus when you're working on the actual piece. Digital is not the same thing, right? Digitally, you can always move things around and cut and shrink and make bigger or smaller stuff. So you can kind of jump into a piece and not have to worry about that. But traditionally, like once you've painted something, you've got to let it dry before you can paint over or scrape it off or something like that. It just can cause be much more challenging to resolve and time consuming. So, but even, you can do this digitally instead of using markers. You could definitely just jump into, Photoshop or Procreate and paint, do a value structure and do a quick sketch just like this, same exact way that I'm doing in this way with the markers. Just do it digitally, have your composition there, you can kind of start with a lighter value, um, sketch it out, come on top with like a line, a darker line, pencil or marker or something, not marker, pen. Uh, Draw everything out and then start to kind of shade it and get the exact same, very, very similar result. So, and then you've also set yourself up like you've resolved a lot of the issues at that point. Then you can even move into color from there, right? Because you've already got all of the things established. So it can work really, really well digitally. And also like, yeah, you can really have a little more freedom doing it digitally versus, but on location necessarily you won't be able to. I think that's it. There's the finished sketch. So hopefully that was helpful, you guys. Take care.